My first question is just kind of if you would like to explain what happened that day and what you went through, just kind of your overall thoughts.
All right. So I was running I was running the Boston Marathon for a charity. So I wasn't a very fast runner, but I planned to finish. And I had trained to run like 10-minute miles. So I wasn't at the finish line when it happened. I was at mile 22, I think. And so that was my friend had joined me. So my friend jumped in at Heartbreak Hill to run with me just to give me some motivational support. And so we ran up Heartbreak Hill, and then we were starting to come towards a landmark for me, which is Boston College. And people were listening to the news on their headphones, and they heard that something was going on. And then we had all sorts of black vehicles and motorcycles drive by us in the race area. So like the roads are supposed to be blocked off, but all these cars started going single file next to us. And so, we're kind of looking at each other like, what's going on here? This isn't normal. It was my first marathon, but my friend had run it before. So he's like, this isn't normal.
Mm-hmm.
So we kept running a little more. And then I think it was a state trooper on a motorcycle, or maybe it was Boston police, I forget. But he was driving slow and letting us know that we were going to stop at mile 23. And he wouldn't give us a lot of information. He just, something happened at the finish line. We're going to end the race at mile 23. And so we were kind of upset about that because we had trained for so long and we didn't know what was going on. So we're just kind of, everybody's milling around at mile 23 going, what's going on here? And then we found out, and of course, normally at the end of the marathon, there are tents there with refreshments, and you can get a blanket if you need it, or because it's April and it's kind of cold. But there was nothing at mile 23, of course. So we're all in our skimpy little outfits for running. And it was pretty cold that day, or colder than, for the outfit we had on, it wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
The weather was kind of cold. So we started walking because our friends, so my Conway, my husband, was at the finish line with a whole bunch of my friends and my running partner's wife and kids. So when we found out what happened, we were just really worried that, something happened to all of them because we couldn't get in touch with them by cell phone because there were so many people trying to check on their loved ones that the towers were overloaded and nothing. So crazy enough, I was able to call my mother in Reading, and then she was able to call Conway and see if he was okay. I mean, so it was like a relay kind of thing with different cell towers. Like you could bounce off a different cell tower and get in, but you couldn't go directly to the person from one end of the city to the other. So we were just walking around like really worried for a while. Finally, we heard that they were all okay. And they were trying to meet us at, I think it was Kenmore Square, just to find a meeting point away from the chaos. We still didn't really, it hadn't set in what was happening. We just wanted to make sure it was okay. And I was trying to get in touch with my friends, but I just couldn't. So for a while, we just wandered around trying to figure out what to do. And eventually we just went home. So like, I think there was nothing else for us to do. So we went home and started watching the news and then figured out what was happening. And it was on the news like 24/7, it seemed like, for days. And finally, they were trying to find the suspects. And one of my friends was right there at the finish line and he was a photographer. So he took pictures, and he captured some of the pictures that he shot were of, I don't know if you remember, white hat and black hat.
Mm-hmm.
So like those were the two suspects. They didn't know who they were at first. And so they were showing his photos on the news, trying to get in touch with these people because he took pretty good photographs because he's a professional photographer. So yeah, he was right there and saw everything. So he was a little traumatized and didn't come back to work for a little bit and stuff. So it did affect people who saw it pretty strongly. I feel lucky that I wasn't there. You know, even though I was running the race, I was slow. So that's another thing.
Well, that was lucky.
Worked in my favor that I was slow, because if I was a little faster. Oh, and the reason why my family and friends weren't right at the finish line, except for a couple, were because they have an app that you can track runners, so you know exactly where they are in the course. And they knew I wasn't near the finish line, so they didn't go there yet. If they thought I was there or didn't know when I was coming in, they probably would have already been there. But because of that app, it kind of like helped them stay safe.
I didn't know that.
And then, yeah, so it was, everything kind of came together so that I wasn't, and my family and friends weren't harmed. But I mean, of course, I feel awful for the people who were. It's just a horrible day for so many families. And then, so they're looking for the guys, and then there's, I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened. So on the 15th was the bombing at the marathon. And then on the 19th in Watertown, where I lived, was another small bombing and a shootout. And the older brother got run over by the police, I think. That part's a little vague in my memory right now, but essentially they caught them in the town I lived in. You know, so in the night we heard all sorts of police sirens coming towards us, and then we heard explosions and gunfire, and it was kind of scary to hear all that after what had happened at the marathon. And so we heard it, and then we went to even investigate. There were a whole bunch of people looking around on our street. We were probably about a mile away from where it happened, but you could still hear it. We couldn't see it, but we heard it. And so then the police locked down our neighborhood. We weren't able to go out of our houses until they caught him. And so I forget if it was 2 days. I'm trying to refresh my memory looking at the internet, but I forget exactly how many days we're on lockdown, if it was just one full day or maybe 2 days, but I don't think it was that long.
I think it was around 2 days.
Very strange so it was very strange to be told you can't leave your house, and then tanks were going up and down our street looking for the younger brother, and they came to each house. Armed men in a uniform came to each house and searched for the brother, the younger brother.
Did they ever search your house?
Yeah, they searched our basement. They wanted to make sure, because we were in our living quarters, they figured he wasn't in there, and that we weren't gonna keep him there.
I can't even imagine how terrifying that would be to know that somebody was going around. I remember I was terrified being 9 years old and I was over 50 miles away.
Yeah, they just thought that he would try to hide in a space that he could break into, which he, we found out later he did. He hid on a boat in someone's yard. But it was possible that he broke into the basement and hid there. We said, yeah, sure, search. We don't, keep us safe, whatever. It was very exciting and scary, and it was your adrenaline's going when you're thinking, oh, what are they doing? And you hear all the explosions and things. So, um, yeah, it was definitely a different sort of week or so.
Mm-hmm. So my next question is, being in the situation, having first-hand experience with terrorism, including the searching afterwards, did it change your viewpoint from before on the whole issue of terrorism in America?
um, well, having been an adult during 9/11, the when the planes hit the Twin
Mm-hmm.
Towers in New York, I think it was just another thing that happened. Like once that happened on U.S. soil, I figured it could happen again, and so it wasn't a total shock. I mean, of course, it's still surprising and shocking, but like I knew it was possible having lived through 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
and granted I wasn't right there at that time, but with all the horrible things on TV and that terrorism happens in other countries, I figured it was bound to happen here at some point. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I didn't expect it to be in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a surprising part. Like it wasn't surprising that it happened. It was surprising that it happened in Watertown and Boston. The only year I really decided to run the Boston
Mm-hmm.
Marathon. Like, strange timing.
So to my next question, how do you feel America deals with this problem, and like, do you think we could do anything better, or just what's your opinion on it?
Well, I think, I mean, they do pretty well preventing it since we've
Mm-hmm.
only had a couple attacks where other countries have had so many. So I don't know that much about what goes into preventing it, but it does seem like they work hard at doing it and it gets the job done for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're not seeing, poisonings and bombings and all sorts of things on a regular basis. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess fairly well. I don't know.
And for my final question, do you think there's anything that is being overlooked in this issue, like in relation to your own experience, where obviously we let two terrorists obviously commit a terrorist attack? Do you think there's anything we could have done to prevent that, or it's just something that we have to work on?
Yeah, I don't know how they would know that those two brothers, and one was in college,
Mm-hmm.
at UMass Dartmouth, and it was just, I don't know. It's like if they knew about him sooner. I mean, he was so young. It's just, yeah, I don't know what they could have done to prevent it
Mm-hmm.
more than listening to calls and, like, I don't know. People just, now that it's happened, maybe people will be more aware and
Mm-hmm.
report things that they hear and not just think, oh, they're just joking around. Or
Mm-hmm.
like, I think it will be taken more seriously in the future.
Yeah.
If I heard someone saying, like planning something, I wouldn't think it was a joke.
Well, that was my final question. So thank you for doing this interview with me. It's going to help
Okay.
me a lot.